October 1986, somewhere beneath the ice-covered waters off Greenland's eastern coast, two Soviet submarines went completely silent. For 72 hours, the most powerful navy on Earth. Couldn't find them. What happened next exposed a vulnerability so critical that NATO scrambled to rewrite their entire Arctic defense strategy. This is the story of two submarines that humiliated a superpower and the desperate hunt that followed. To understand why this matters, you need to understand one critical piece of geography, the GIUK Gap. The Greenland-Iceland-United Kingdom Gap is the only route Soviet submarines could take to reach the Atlantic Ocean. Every nuclear missile submarine, every attack sub heading to threaten American cities or NATO shipping lanes, had to pass through this 1,200-mile corridor, and the Americans knew it. Since the 1950s, the US Navy and NATO allies had turned the GIUK Gap into the most heavily monitored stretch of ocean on the planet. Underwater listening arrays called SOSUS, Sound Surveillance System, blanketed the seafloor. P-3 Orion patrol aircraft circled overhead day and night. Attack submarines prowled the depths. The mission was simple: detect every Soviet submarine leaving port and never lose them. For decades it worked. But in October 1986, two Soviet Akula-class submarines, codenamed by NATO as Shark 1 and Shark 2, slipped out of their northern fleet base near Murmansk. Their mission: penetrate NATO's defensive line, undetected. What the Soviets were about to prove would terrify Western admirals for years to come. The Akula-class was the Soviet answer to America's Los Angeles-class attack submarines. Faster, quieter, deadlier, but quieter is relative. American sonar operators had been trained to recognize the acoustic signature of every Soviet sub, the unique sound of propeller cavitation, reactor coolant pumps, even the slight hum of electrical systems. On October 14th, SOSUS arrays detected two contacts departing Murmansk. Standard procedure. NATO forces went to alert condition Bravo. Three American Los Angeles-class submarines moved to intercept. A Royal Navy frigate group repositioned south of Iceland. P-3 Orions dropped sonobuoys across predicted transit routes. And then, nothing. 48 hours later, both submarines had vanished. Not hard to track, not intermittent contact. Gone. Inside the NATO Joint Maritime Command in Northwood, England, panic set in. Rear Admiral James Holloway III, commander of NATO's Atlantic submarine forces, faced an impossible scenario. Two nuclear-powered attack submarines, potentially armed with torpedoes and cruise missiles, were somewhere in the North Atlantic. And nobody knew where. What NATO didn't know was that Soviet submarine commanders had developed a new tactic. They called it the Dead Zone Protocol. The submarines shut down all non-essential systems. They drifted with ocean currents beneath thermal layers, natural temperature boundaries that deflect sonar. They moved at speeds so slow that their propellers produced almost zero noise. For 72 hours, Shark 1 and Shark 2 became ghosts. NATO threw everything at the problem: more submarines, more aircraft, even satellite reconnaissance looking for periscope wakes. Nothing. On October 17th, day 4, a Canadian frigate in the Denmark Strait detected a faint magnetic anomaly. It was Shark 2 creeping along the seafloor at just 3 knots. Within minutes, the datum was cold again. The submarine had descended deeper and disappeared. But now NATO knew the Russians were inside the gap. What happened next remains partially classified. But we know this: on October 19th, both submarines simultaneously surfaced 400 miles east of Newfoundland, Canada, well beyond the GIUK Gap, well into the Atlantic hunting grounds. They transmitted a brief encoded message to Moscow. Then they turned around and went home. They'd done it. They'd beaten the most sophisticated anti-submarine network ever created. And they'd done it without firing a single shot. The intelligence failure triggered a crisis inside NATO. If two Soviet submarines could penetrate the GIUK Gap undetected, then the entire foundation of Western naval strategy was broken. In December 1986, the U.S. Chief of Naval Operations testified before a closed session of Congress. The transcript remains classified, but we know the conclusion: the Soviets had achieved tactical surprise. American attack submarines had failed to maintain contact. The SOSUS network had been defeated. The response was massive: the U.S. Navy accelerated development of the Seawolf-class submarine, specifically designed to hunt advanced Soviet subs in Arctic waters. Congress appropriated $800 million for upgraded sonar arrays. New passive detection systems were deployed across the North Atlantic, but the real impact was psychological. For 40 years, NATO had assumed technological superiority. American submariners believed they owned the underwater domain. The Greenland incident shattered that confidence. Today, the lesson remains urgent. Russia's Northern Fleet still operates from Murmansk. Their newest submarines, the GIUK-class, are quieter than anything the Soviets built in 1986, and the GIUK Gap. Still the most critical choke point in global naval strategy, Greenland itself has become a flashpoint. Melting Arctic ice opens new shipping routes. Russia claims vast underwater territories. China wants mining rights. The US maintains radar stations and proposes new bases. The same waters where 2 submarines embarrassed NATO 38 years ago are now the front line of 21st century great power competition. Submarine warfare is the ultimate game of hide and seek, played with nuclear weapons. The crew of Shark 1 and Shark 2 didn't destroy NATO warships. They didn't sink a carrier battle group, but they proved something far more dangerous, that the ocean is vast. That technology has limits. That silence is a weapon. Somewhere beneath the Arctic ice right now, Russian submarines are running silent. NATO is listening, and the hunt never ends.
Please watch the full video. It's informational. And please subscribe to this channel.
Page everything.